like I mentioned before about seeing a birth after trauma.
Yeah.
When the real odds are stacked against somebody having the birth type that they want, maybe they've had to fight really hard to achieve what they want and have their rights listened to. People that have suffered previous trauma, then they go on to absolutely smash their birth. That fills me with absolute joy.
Yeah.
I see some strength, courage and determination that is absolutely humbling, you know. It's beautiful to see somebody have their baby in their arms, think, I knew I could do this.
Yeah. Oh, how
And
wonderful.
it's lovely.
Today I'm joined by Kirsty Broughton, a birth doula and founder of the Essex Birth Company. She's supported so many women through pregnancy and labour, and she's here to talk about what birth is really like, what can help and why no one should have to do it alone. Kirsty, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Kirsty, you're a birth doula. Can you explain a little bit about what a birth doula does for anybody who might be considering having one?
Absolutely, yeah. Birth doulas are absolutely all different, so I will share my experiences. I support people with birth preparation workshops initially for doula clients, and I do that as a standalone service as well. Education is absolutely key. I then support people through their births. I tend to only work with trauma these days.
Right.
People that have had previous birth trauma and other trauma, even childhood trauma and things. So I support through pregnancy for anything a person needs, navigating the maternity system. We do lots of birth prep sessions, between 6 and 10 hours, depending on the package and things booked and what's needed. I've created guides, which are like books.
Yeah.
Over the years, all leaflets come together, and I've ended up creating my own book, really. We work through that. And once we've done that, families feel really prepared and confident to head into their birth. You know.
Lovely. It's such a daunting time, isn't it? Especially if it's your first child, knowing exactly what's going to go on, and or as you say, navigating the maternity system can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming, can't it?
Absolutely.
So to have somebody in your corner who's guiding you through that, who's been through it before, I consider it's a huge support to women. Very much needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then nearer the time of the birth, I would go on call because we don't know when these babies are coming. Very unpredictable. And wait for the call.
Yeah.
I will join a family when labour is cracking on a little bit, not initially, when they need my support.
Okay.
And there's so much that I do then, advocacy, physical and emotional support, suggestions for labour progression, reminding them of their rights and choices and supporting any decision that they make, supporting partners too.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah,
Always
they need support
important.
as well, don't they? Can you share a birth story that really stuck with you, one that taught you what mums really need during labour?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many births I've seen over probably about 10 years now.
Yeah.
I've seen some really traumatic births and some really beautiful births and everything in between. What I aim to do is educate people initially to try and help prevent trauma, to make those births go in a better way for the family.
Right.
And I also do support for trauma afterwards. Well, there's one story that always sticks with me. It was a family I worked with, and I went round for the initial visit, and their shoulders were in their ears and they were tense and they were sad. And when they started talking about their previous birth, they were both in tears. This was mum and dad.
Yeah.
And we did our birth prep sessions together, and it was like that as well. They were really traumatised from what had happened in the past. So we did a lot of birth prep. We did relaxation techniques. We looked at trauma release work. We looked at mindset shifts and empowerment. And in the end, we started talking about place of birth. And they said, actually, our trauma occurred in a labour ward. Let's birth at home.
Wow, okay.
And that was the best thing that they did.
Really?
You know, it was against guidelines, NHS guidelines, and they had to get a PCSP, which is a personalised care and support plan, drawn up to have their home water birth. But they had an amazing water birth.
Yeah.
They had no interventions. It was all on their own terms. She really turned inward and listened to her body.
Yeah.
And it was a really, when I went back for the debrief, they explained it as a healing experience.
That's
And
incredible.
their shoulders were lower. And the energy in the room just felt so different. And they were just like a different family.
Yeah.
that was amazing.
I can imagine. I mean, we know now, don't we, so much more about the importance of a woman feeling like she's in a safe environment for labour to occur.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we're in that fight or flight state, it can really slow down the progress of labour, can't it?
Absolutely.
So if the environment is going to make a huge impact, then I can understand opting for a home birth.
Yeah.
Although that must have been a little bit daunting if they were being advised against it. But turns out it's obviously the right decision for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was. And we looked at the pros and cons and made a really safe decision.
Yeah.
And it works out really well.
Oh, how lovely. What a great story. What does nearly every pregnant woman worry about then that might not be expressed out loud?
I think it's to do with plans changing and maybe they're going to need induction or a cesarean or, you know, maybe they've planned a home birth or a birth in the birth centre and they want the twinkly lights and the idyllic birth.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think they all worry about that. And I think being open-minded to change is always really important. Even with a doula, you don't know how things are going to go. I don't know. Nobody does.
And that's so often the case, isn't it? It's quite rare that things go how that birthing plan is laid out, especially with your first, because you don't really know what your story is going to be.
Yeah.
So to be open-minded, I think, is key, isn't it? And I guess having your support there can really help people recognise that there are other ways to give birth rather than just the way that they've perhaps planned.
Yeah, and we would have talked about that in advance, all the different scenarios, because there isn't just one way, as you say. Education in advance, I think, is just key. And learning about the choices and the rights you have in different situations and what you want.
Absolutely. What's the most common moment of doubt or panic during labour? And how do you support a woman through this?
So this is a period called transition, I think. And that's the period in the labour process between the first stage, the longer stage where you're having surges or contractions quite regularly and they start building up more and more. And the second stage is when you actually birth your baby. Baby comes down the birth canal and they're born. So between there is a stage that people tend not to know about called transition. And there's two ways transition can happen. You can see somebody calm as you like until this point, then all of a sudden it's, I want to go home, I've had enough, I'm not having a baby anymore. And actually I recognise that now as transition. And what it is, it's your body being really, really clever actually. You've been all nice and calm with lots of high oxytocin, that's a hormone that you want. But at this point, adrenaline spikes. And there's a reason for that. It's because you're about to go through that second stage and it's physically demanding and it gives you that surge of energy with it to be able to bear down and birth your baby. So there is a really good reason for it. But when people see it, they panic because you can be sick, shake, sweat and have a little freak out really.
Well, it can be gruelling, can't it? Some labours are so long for some women and so exhausting and often right through the night. It is really tiring and there's a lot going on.
But our bodies are clever, you know, work with that. You've got then a real power surge and you can get that baby out. It's either that or the other way that transition goes is things stop and slow right down. And then people panic for a slightly different reason because have I gone back to the beginning? Is my labour starting from scratch again? Am I not in labour anymore? But again, it's your body's way of being really clever and giving you a break before that demanding second stage. When that happens, I suggest people eat, sleep, have a drink, things that they've not been able to do because their surges. How
long can that last then? So you would have time to have a sleep, would you?
You could do. I don't think I've seen one long enough really for that. I've heard that they can be up to an hour or so before the contractions or surges really pick up again. But if you've got even 15, 20 minutes, just have a sleep or a drink or a rest. Just having a breather really can really help. And I think the way I teach people about this is, you know, just going through what I've just said with you and for all your listeners, because if you know about it, you don't have to panic. And if I'm at a birth with a couple, I would say this is possibly transition, it's okay, you're safe, and remind them of it. And that's normally enough to stop that panic without really doing anything as such.
I think you're right. Education is key, isn't it, when you're going through the labour process? Because there are so many different stages. And as we keep saying, especially if it's your first baby. It's so much more daunting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Can you give us some examples of when a birth has not gone to plan then? And how did you support the mum and help her cope?
Yeah, there's one that came to mind. I know we've talked a little bit about home birth, but this one actually was very different. I think a lot of people expect doulas to just support home births and those lovely ones, but we're there for all kinds of birth types, caesarean birth as well.
Right.
So I had a client who was told her baby was very small before being born. And she had some scans about placental function called arterial Doppler scans, and it showed that there were some issues with her placenta functioning as it should. So her consultant said, you need to have induction of labour at 36 weeks.
Right.
Now, we'd done our birth preparation sessions by this point. So my client was very assertive, and she said, but what are my chances of induction working at 36 weeks?
Yeah.
We talked about something called the Bishop's score, which is a score your cervix gets to assess the readiness for labour. She said to her consultant, I know about this Bishop's score. And she said, I know at 36 weeks I'll have a low Bishop's score, which means that induction of labour is really unlikely to work for me, or if it does, it will be a 4 or 5 day, long drawn out process. And the consultant looked at her for a minute and actually said, yeah, I absolutely agree. It's unlikely that your body is ready for labour, so it will be likely to be tough for you, this induction process. And the client said, well, why are you suggesting it for me then? And she said, because we've had a lot of caesareans recently and we need to try and keep the rates down.
No way.
So my client said, great, I'm going to opt for an elective caesarean, thank you. She was really stood in her power, advocated for what she wanted and she knew was right. It was likely to end up with that anyway, and she didn't want 4 or 5 days of induction.
Absolutely. My gosh, how awful to hear that it's being rates put before a woman's needs. That's shocking.
Absolutely.
Thank God she was educated enough to know about the Bishop's score and that she was able to advocate for her own needs.
Yeah.
Because you're right, there's nothing worse than being induced and that being a 4 or 5 day long process because you're absolutely exhausted and to then end up in a C-section anyway.
Yeah. And I'm hearing more about that all the time at the moment, having both.
Yeah.
That's not great.
People being induced when it's not really the right thing for them.
Yeah, maybe they were too early to be induced. Their body wasn't ready to accept that and they've ended up in theatre and having caesarean birth anyway.
Gosh. Yeah, as you say, especially at 36 weeks, because you hear a lot more of that maybe at 38 weeks, but 36 is quite early, isn't it, for some women, especially if they might have gone 1 or 2 weeks over anyway. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think for 36 weeks for this baby, it was the right thing, needed to be born because of the placental issues.
Yeah.
But it needed to be a caesarean, really.
I understand that. What's your best advice on how a woman should pick her birth partner then? How do we make a good decision?
There's a few things I thought of here. Somebody that can really advocate for you, that knows your needs and wants inside out, that's been involved in the birth prep session, so you're really on the same page.
Okay.
So that preparation, really.
So is that always maybe the baby's father, or could that be somebody different, like their mother, or who do most people pick?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, it's normally baby's dad, but it can be anybody, whoever your partner is, whether it's a romantic partner, whoever you choose to be your birth partner, mum, sister, friend, anybody really, as long as they're involved in all of this and just know you really well.
Yeah.
And maybe can read your body language and things a little bit too. But being able to stay calm is the other thing. A partner, again, your husband, your boyfriend or anybody else, whoever it is, needs to just stay calm, relaxed, because you will pick up on that. If somebody's flapping around you, you're going to pick up that energy. If they're breathing deeply, you're going to mirror that. So nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Calmness will rub off on that person giving birth.
Where does your role come in then? Say somebody has got their husband or their partner in the room and obviously you're there to support as well. Do you end up being the voice for the mum giving birth, or are you just there to support the father or husband as well?
It depends. Absolutely both.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go into situations and the birth partner is quite, takes a little bit of a back seat, isn't sure how to express themselves and isn't so great at advocating. I've been there where people have felt a bit queasy and nauseous and had to sit out. And And I've really stepped in then.
Yeah.
But we work as a team generally.
Nice. Yeah.
I support both parents. I might be getting some cups of tea while he is holding a hand, stroking backs, or the other way round.
Yeah.
We take it in turns a bit and just work as a team.
Yeah, because you never really know how you're going to react on the day, do you, as a partner, how you're going to feel, how you're going to respond.
Absolutely.
Especially, as I say, if it's your first child. So it is nice to have that added support in the room.
And I think sometimes there's decisions to be made.
Yeah.
If we were at home birth again, for example, and the midwife suggesting a transfer in because of maybe something like time limits and things, there's nothing actually wrong exactly. We would kind of work as a team. What does the evidence say? Let's look at this objectively and make the best decision for your family.
Lovely. Is there a moment in your birth where you think a moment in your job where you think this is exactly why I do this, a moment in somebody's birth?
I think it was a little bit like I mentioned before about seeing a birth after trauma.
Yeah.
When the real odds are stacked against somebody having the birth type that they want, maybe they've had to fight really hard to achieve what they want and have their rights listened to. People that have suffered previous trauma, then they go on to absolutely smash their birth. That fills me with absolute joy.
Yeah.
I see some strength, courage and determination that is absolutely humbling, It's beautiful to see somebody have their baby in their arms and think, I knew I could do this.
Yeah. Oh, how wonderful.
It's lovely.
And how long have you been doing it now, did you say?
Coming up for 10 years, I think.
10 years,
yeah.
Wow. So you must have seen a lot of babies.
Yes.
What a wonderful job. What advice do you give any first-time mums who are worried or scared then as to whether they'll be able to cope with the pain?
So I do various other things as well as doulaing. I'm a pregnancy yoga teacher. Next year I'll be advertising as a perinatal counsellor and trauma therapist. I do rewind techniques, which is a trauma-based practice.
Okay.
Hypnobirthing, various things. I bring a lot of this together to support people. And one of the things I do with all of that is talk about fears and pain particularly. Pain in itself is very subjective. I could put the same amount of pain to two people and you feel it differently. Someone may say that's excruciating, where the other might say that's not great, but I can cope. So it's really subjective. And all we hear about are the negative stories.
Yeah.
So we assume it's going to be painful. Not everybody describes birth as painful. We talk about the tension, fear, pain cycle and how to break that off. If your uterus is working optimally, it can be less painful.
Right.
And there's things that I teach to help that happen. We want really good blood flow to our uterus.
Yeah.
And we get that when we're calm and relaxed, breathing well. If you're fearful and scared, we get that fight-flight reflex. All the blood is in our hands and feet to run away rather than in our uterus. So we want to avoid that. So there's actually a lot that can be done so you won't be using that word pain. There's also lots of coping mechanisms that I go through in the birth prep. TENS machines, peanut balls, birth balls, water, upright positions and gravity.
Yeah.
So much that we can bring together.
Yeah.
So pain doesn't need to be the focus of labour and birth.
I love that because, like you say, there is a lot you can do, isn't there? I personally did hypnobirthing and I found that really useful because I've always been into Pilates for the last 10, 12 years now as well. So I found sort of combining the hypnobirthing and my breathing really helped me to it gave me something to focus on and really helped me focus on just getting the baby out rather than going into that fight or flight state of panic. Yeah. And I think on the odd moment when I did feel myself start to panic, it did almost feel more painful. Whereas when I was in a calmer state, I felt more in control and it felt very intense. But you're right, for me, there were moments I would say was painful, but moments when I felt it was just a really strong contraction. And I wouldn't always describe it as painful. But like you say, it is different for every woman. So it's kind of respecting everybody's experience of what they go through. But there are many different tools and things we can use that can help that experience, aren't there?
Absolutely, yeah. Oxytocin is one of the best things. It's a hormone that we get when we are calm and relaxed. And with oxytocin comes beta endorphins, and that's the natural painkiller within your body. Yeah. So the calmer you can stay, the less pain you're going to feel.
Absolutely. I found a water birth quite helpful as well. I know lots of women opt for that as a good option.
Yeah, water's absolutely wonderful. I often see people I work with use a TENS machine and upright positions and swaying and birth balls and things at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they get into the water and I hear,
really,
as they sink into the water, and find it really, really comforting.
What's the benefits of a TENS machine?
It just takes away those pain signals. It's like being massaged, I suppose. It's little it feels like little electric shocks, I suppose, in your back. But if you put it on early, it has a cumulative effect, and that effect builds over time.
Yeah.
And so when you really, really need it, it's functioning fully and can really help you relax.
Yeah.
I use it for my bad back and shoulders, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It really helps.
And do you find it's quite beneficial to get lots of women to kind of do the work beforehand, like through yoga and Pilates and things like that?
Yeah, I don't do too much yoga these days because I'm so busy. But that can really help with relaxation. It also helps. I teach trauma-based yoga as well, and it can help afterwards for negative situations too. Okay. Yeah.
What's something small then that can make a huge difference in labour?
I thought about this for a while. There's so many things. But the further you are away from medical interventions, the less likely you are to need it. Okay. So I think my answer to that is considering a home birth. I know I mentioned this at the beginning. It's not right for everybody, but if it's accessible and okay for you, then definitely consider it. You're less likely to need medical intervention if you birth at home.
And why is that? Just because you're in a calmer environment where it feels more natural?
Absolutely. You've got higher oxytocin levels that I just mentioned. You're going to have the more beta endorphins. You're more likely to be moving around. You're relaxed because it is your own home. Yeah, absolutely. Home birth midwives tend to be more relaxed as well. Try and get the most holistic midwives you can. Have a little chat and see what their mindset is like. And if you can, independent midwives are amazing if it's within your means.
Yeah.
Staying home can really transform a birth.
Wow, okay.
It's just not for everybody though. Yeah. You have to be comfortable with it. Otherwise you will be too tense to have all those lovely relaxing hormones.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay, so do you have any final words of advice for the listeners today?
Prepare yourself in advance. Have that thinking brain switched on at the moment. Really do as much prep and research as you can into what you want in different scenarios. Be open-minded. And then as you're coming close to the time for your birth, that birthing window, not a particular due date, due month, relax and rest as much as you can and let that oxytocin flow.
Lovely. Well, thank you, Kirsty. I feel like that's given lots of information on all of the options there of having a birth doula. And that's going to be really useful to the listeners today.